You know that feeling? That really unsettling sense of agitation just
Yeah.
bubbling under the surface. Like everything around you, maybe even inside you, is just churning. It's this deep unease, right? A kind of conflict that seems to stick with us no matter how much info we try to absorb to, figure it all out. Welcome to this deep dive. Today we're going to try and find a bit of a shortcut to some, well, profound wisdom. We're digging into a really ancient text, the Attadaṇḍasutta, from the Sutta Nipata. And what's kind of amazing is how this ancient piece, just a few lines really, might hold a key to understanding why we feel so constantly switched on today, especially with like the digital age. It's not just about having more information. It feels deeper, this agitation, almost like our brains are those fish the text mentions,
Yeah.
thrashing in shallow water with all this data flying about. So this deep dive, our mission really, is to see if it offers a roadmap, a way to grasp the real roots of suffering and maybe find some genuine inner peace.
Absolutely. And the Attadaṇḍasutta, it's quite something. The name itself, Attadaṇ, it literally translates to something like those who bear the rod. Or, simply put, those who inflict harm. And it kicks off with this really stark observation. See the fear born from those who bear the rod, the agitated people, it grabs you immediately. Then it paints that picture you mentioned, this incredibly vivid image of seeing the struggling people like fish in shallow water, frantic, desperate, caught up. So yeah, our aim today is to unpack that, to pull out the timeless guidance here on how we might move from that kind of inner turmoil towards hopefully a deep calm, even with everything going on around us.
That image, fish in shallow water, wow. It really nails that feeling of frantic struggle, doesn't it? You instantly get that sense of panic, and like there's no escape. But when it says fear born from those who bear the rod, is it just talking about external conflict? Or is there maybe an internal thing it's pointing to right from the start? Because the text also observes the world is without essence all around, all directions are agitated, and the speaker in the sutta says, I could not see a settled home for myself. That really hits home, that restlessness.
That's a really key question. And you're right, while the starting point seems external, the fear coming from those inflicting harm, the setup pivots pretty quickly. It points inwards to identify this core internal issue. It calls it a dart that's lodged deep in the heart. It says, seeing conflict at the end, disease arose in me. Then there I saw dirt, hard to see, lodged in the heart. So it's not just about bad stuff happening out there. It's about how that external stuff triggers something inside us. This deep-seated agitation, this unease that's already there, waiting.
Okay, a dart. And it's hard to see. So what does that look like in, everyday life? What are the little signs we might miss? How does it feel when we're struck by it, so to speak?
Well, think about that feeling, maybe what people call doom scrolling, or that constant urge to just check your phone again and again, even when you know it's not really helping. That's the kind of thing. It's that inner restlessness, that subtle but always there dissatisfaction that pushes us to constantly look outside for some kind of fix, some relief. The Sutta actually says this dart is the very thing that makes us run around in all directions, that frantic searching. But then here's the insight. Having plucked out that very dart, one does not run, one sits. It's profound, really.
Right.
Suggests peace isn't about finding the perfect place outside, but removing this thing inside.
Right. So plucking out the dart is the goal. How does the Sutta actually guide us to do that? What's the first step according to this ancient wisdom? How do we cut through that inner noise?
Yeah, and this is where it gets really practical, surprisingly so. It basically tells us to detach from things tied in the world. It says, one should not be involved in them, piercing through all desires. One should train for one's own Nibbana. Yeah, when it talks about Nibbana, that's the ultimate goal, right? That state of profound peace, liberation, the end of craving. But it's not passive. It's not just checking out. It's an active call. Ethical conduct, yes, but also this deep, intentional letting go of the very things that hook us into suffering.
Okay, detachment, letting go. But what does that actually look like? It's easy to say, harder to, picture. Does the Sutta give us clues? You mentioned this figure, the Muni, the sage.
It really does. It paints a remarkably clear picture. The Muni, the sage figure, they're described as truthful, not arrogant, not deceitful. Someone who doesn't engage in backbiting, isn't angry. And crucially, someone who overcomes greed and what it calls evil desire. The text keeps building on this idea of self-mastery, of clarity. The Muni is someone who, endures sleepiness, sloth, carelessness, things we all struggle with. But they should not stand in conceit, especially when aiming for Nibbana. They shouldn't lie. They shouldn't cling to forms. They need to fully understand conceit, understand that ego-driven stuff, and abstain from violence. These aren't just vague ideals, they're presented as actionable qualities, ways to cultivate that inner peace. The Muni knows the Dhamma, they understand the fundamental way things are.
Wow. And it even gets into how we relate to time, doesn't it? Something about not delighting in the old or tolerating the new, but in terms of clinging and not grieving over loss. That's huge. It sounds like a really profound level of detachment, almost counterintuitive to how we usually operate, chasing new things or holding on to the past. And then that line, the Muni should not depend on space. What does that even mean? Letting go of attachments to past, future, even our ideas about the world.
Exactly. It's about letting go of those anchors, past experiences, future hopes and fears, even the conceptual boxes we put things in. It's radical non-attachment. And as we start to see these attachments, the Sutta uses these incredibly potent images, metaphors, to describe the psychological traps keeping us agitated. What were some of those that stood out to you?
Oh, yeah, those were powerful. It calls greed a great flood. You can just picture that, right? Being swept away by wanting the next thing, the latest trend, that feeling of being overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And running, or restlessness, as whispering. I like that one. It's like that subtle background static in your head, that nagging feeling you can't quite pin down or switch off.
Precisely. And planning or conceiving as a support, meaning the very stories we tell ourselves, our mental frameworks, those are the things we cling to for stability, but they can trap us. And this one's key. Sensual mud is hard to cross. That's the pull of immediate pleasure, right? The easy gratification we chase that just gets us stuck deeper in the cycle of wanting more. These metaphors, they just cut right through. They paint such a clear picture of the mental states that keep us spinning. And they feel so relevant today, don't they? With the digital floods and the mud of constant distraction everywhere.
It's amazing how they resonate. So
Yeah.
once you understand these obstacles, maybe start to move beyond them. The Sutta describes the true sage. What does that state look like?
It describes someone standing on truth, having renounced everything. This person is called peaceful. Simple, but profound. They are wise, they know the Dhamma, they are unattached. And this is interesting that do not envy anyone. It's a picture of real freedom. Almost unimaginable sometimes.
Yeah, unattached. And it says this freedom applies even to loss and change. One who here overcomes desires, does not grieve nor pine, their stream is cut, they're unbound. That sounds like a release from the whole mechanism of suffering.
It really does. A radical letting go.
Okay, but there's that verse. Dry up what is past, let nothing be in your future. If you grasp nothing in the middle, you will fare peacefully. That sounds almost impossible. How do you practically grasp nothing in the middle when we're always, doing things, planning things?
It's about the clinging, not holding on tightly. And the peak of this, the Sutta says, is someone who in no way has the idea of mine in name and form. Now that mine, in name and form, it's not just about your car or your house. It's deeper. It's the labels, the concepts, our very identity, our thoughts, our perceptions, realizing even these aren't solid, permanent things we own. And because of that deep realization, such a person does not grieve over non-existence. They aren't thrown when things change, appear, or disappear. They simply are not defeated in the world. They're described as not harsh, not greedy, unagitated, equal in all regards. For them, there are no formations or constructions. Having stopped all that mental churning, all that striving, they see safety everywhere.
So the Muni, the sage, they embody this peace because they've stopped the comparison game, not seeing themselves as equal to, better than, or worse than others. Just peaceful. No stinginess, not grasping, not rejecting. Just complete equanimity. The internal dart has genuinely been removed. Which I suppose brings us full circle on this deep dive. We started by recognizing that inner dart of suffering, that agitation we all feel. And we've journeyed through the Sutta's description of the Muni, the truly peaceful person, and seen the path laid out. Ethical living, yes, but also this really profound detachment. And understanding those powerful metaphors, the flood of greed, the mud of sensuality, that show us what keeps us stuck.
Exactly. And if you bring this ancient wisdom right back to your own experience today with all the information, the demands, the pace of life, the Sutta's core message, this non-clinging, this clarity, it really feels like a direct antidote to feeling overwhelmed, doesn't it? It suggests that real freedom, real peace comes from letting go of that idea of mine, even with our own identity, our labels, realizing it's all changing. And that leads to that incredible state where you don't grieve non-existence, you aren't defeated by circumstances, you're just not constantly churned up by the world or the endless stream of information.
So here's something to think about, maybe mull over after listening. If this path to real peace involves letting go of our attachments, not just the stuff, but to the past, the future, even that core sense of me and mine, How might truly living that non-clinging change things? Not just how you deal with information overload, but how you experience your entire life. What would it actually feel like to exist without constantly comparing yourself, like the Muni? Just experiencing the world without that endless inner commentary.